Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment, a podcast devoted to helping you overcome challenges in your life that prevent you from becoming the best version of yourself. Each episode features interviews with people from all walks of life about their journey of self-development and the principles they utilize to overcome their fears to achieve their desired outcome. Ready to be enlightened? Here's your host, Ken Primus.
Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. As usual, guys, you know I love to take this particular space right here and welcome our guests because I know they're coming with a couple of things I really, truly deem very expensive. That is their time. 24 hours. You guys have heard me say this so many times. 24 hours has been offered to each individual. How you respect her, how you treat her, how you honor her will tell us much about you, because if you understand her, you will learn to make decisions that will show and reflect your understanding. The other is the power of the journey. The journey is a creator, and it has created Sabrina, who sits before us this morning, and I want to honor her and thank her from the bottom of my heart for coming and offering to spend such quality, expensive commodity here with us here at Threads of Enlightenment. Thank you so much, Sabrina, for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. We're so honored and appreciative, for sure.
Thank you so much. And I also often ask this question, Sabrina, and Sabrina asked me, she made a request, and so I want to honor her request. The question that I usually ask everyone is, how do you serve humankind? I would say mankind meaning inclusive, but her request was humankind. And so I want to honor her and say that. So how do you serve?
Creating and maintaining respect in homes, workplaces, and schools, and giving voice and choice to children of all ages through Osso Safe. Yeah. If I were to put it in a sentence, children are at the core of what we do.
Yeah.
So, and we feel that we were all children, obviously. So, and they are the most disenfranchised beings on the planet. So we serve them so that way they grow up to be respected, empowered, free.
Well, I believe we were all from there. That was our start, if you will. Looking back, we can see a tremendous need there because we were lacking, if you will, in some cases when we were coming up. And so you have an opportunity to be able to fulfill some of those needs that you saw as a young individual coming up, walking through your journey. One of our customs here, Sabrina, is to go back into that time machine that is afforded us through our memory. And we visit certain spaces, I tell folks, I call them spaces, and we reside there for a few years. And one of the very first space that we visit when we are born onto this planet is with mom and dad, and we call that grouping family. And we have, in reality, the mom and dad to us are strangers, and even to themselves in many ways they're strangers, but yet this unit is together and is called a family. What was your family unit like?
Chaotic, dysfunctional, violent, abusive. Yeah, my whole childhood, my whole and even into young adulthood, until I was 21. So it was chaotic. It was very difficult, traumatic. I hope I answer the question.
Yes, I usually do that, Sabrina, because I tell people our pain and our trauma has genesis, beginnings. And usually it is that first location in many cases where we would see the genesis of certain traumas. And those traumas will cause us to make decisions, mindsets. We start to program ourselves certain ways to find a way to protect, or in your case, to be safe. And so here is this young individual, this young being in this chaotic situation. What did she do to attempt to find peace within that space?
Well, you don't. You kind of me, and I would say I think a lot of people in that situation, there's so many of us, unfortunately, you suppress, oppress, and repress until you can free yourself. So I'm a dancer. I couldn't mention dance. I couldn't say the word, and it was understood. It was almost as if it wasn't like a discussion. You're never dancing. When you witness your father beat your mother and your mother beating you, that you're experiencing. And every time my father beat her, I felt like he was beating me. Um, Things that are understood, unspoken. You don't say anything to anyone. You don't talk about this. It stays here. So your suffering is very much isolated, but it's very deep and big. So I suppressed until I moved out. So I can't say that I coped. I just kind of put myself on the back burner
Yeah,
until I was able to free myself by moving out. There was no other way. I was just trying to survive.
yeah,
There was no one that came to my rescue. When I say no one, I mean no one. It's because anybody that knew and the family knew what was going on, no one ever said to me, Sabrina, you could come over my house. I'm so sorry that this is happening to you. We're here for you. Nobody ever told my parents, look, you're hurting her. You need to stop it. This is unacceptable, inexcusable. And we can't even give the excuse of like, oh, well, that was in, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years, whatever, 20 years ago, because it's still happening today in
hmm
so many households. To answer your question, what did I do? I just put myself on the way back burner. And I just said to myself later, 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 until I moved out at 21. And that's when I discovered who I was or who I'm supposed to be, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the first phase of the trauma, Sabrina, is always the survival mode. We do what is necessary to survive, however that looks to that individual. And again, that's on an individual basis. Like, there's so many different ways people will act and live to survive. And the purpose of the survival is to move through and to come away from. So you stated that you were 21 when you made that transition. Did you go into college or did you go straight into the work fold if you were working environment? Which path did you pick and why?
Actually, I mean, I don't even know why it slipped my mind. I did get therapy. Therapy is a very important aspect of what we do at Also Safe, and also on a personal level. I started going to a therapist at 19 years old.
Okay.
So by 21, I already had 2 years of therapy under my belt, so to speak. And I went to college. I went to college, university, and for 4 years. So I got my degree and then I moved out. And I got jobs, and it was three things. I got a job, my car, and I moved out all within a couple of months. And my father threatened me. I had to hide my car at a neighbor's house to keep it there because my parents couldn't find out. You would think that in a normal household, wow, you got a car. This is great. This is celebratory. Nothing was celebrated in my house. So I had to hide it, and I moved out. Uh, I did what I was supposed to do.
hmm
I got a computer science degree. I minored in Italian and math. I did what I was supposed to do, but I was miserable because my DNA is dance. I'm a
Yeah.
dancer. So I couldn't dance until I was 21 also. And I was, a big part of my freedom also was I moved out, but I was a heavy duty club dancer. I live close proximity to New York, thank goodness. And I loved the club scene. I absolutely loved the club scene. That was the beginning of my freedom, of my release. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. I would be clubbing all night, every weekend in New York. And it was techno. That's my music preference, techno, tribal, trance. Oh my gosh, I loved it. And that period of time, the 90s, was through the beginning of the 2000s. There was nothing like it. I don't think it'll ever be replicated. It was so great. I took the dance floor. It was mine to take. And that was freedom for me. And I loved the whole scene, the DJs, just everything about it. So to answer your question, yeah, I went to school, I got my degree, I moved out. My life was stolen, so I had to. They say when you're a victim of trauma, a victim, especially for a long period of time, your whole childhood into a young adulthood, you spend the rest of your life healing from your childhood. And it
Yeah.
shouldn't be that way, right? It shouldn't be that way. Your childhood should be one of where your formative years are very important. So that basically sets the stage for the rest of your life. So either it's a good time, and when I say a good time where your parents were there for you, supportive, and there was positivity, empowerment, encouragement, freedom of choice, respect, safety in that period, or the exact opposite, like for me, violence, abuse, chaos, dysfunction, verbal, physical. I didn't experience sexual abuse, but definitely verbal, physical abuse. And so, yeah, so that's the route I took, and healing from it ever since.
I think the trauma, the beauty about us is that we will heal, but it's a journey. And I try to remind people of the word journey. When one say the word journey doesn't, to me, means that you get there in 5 minutes. It means that it takes some time. There's stopping at rest areas. There's refilling of the automobile with gas, and all those natural things that you do on a journey is what we do in the spiritual realm that we have to do. I was in New York a decade before you in the club scenes in the 80s. So I loved it then as well. So I know what the scene looks like back in the day. So here you are, 21. You said dancing was the way by which you are able to express yourself and to be. I found that when I danced, I was able to be free. I remember going through my divorce and dancing, using dancing as my therapy to deal with all of the different things that I was dealing with. And so here you are, you're 21, you started therapy from 19 years old. When you were there and you began your journey of therapy, and what did you begin to learn about you? It's important that I tell people we begin to learn certain things. We see some strengths as well. We see some beauty, we see some pain, but there's always a strand of beauty within some of the things that we started discovering within ourselves. What did you started to learn about who you are and are, Sabrina, as you began? You started in 19 and then you continue on in life. What did you started to learn?
I had one good friend who, I mean, I had many friends, but I only trusted one friend where I was comfortable to tell her what was happening in my house. And she cried with me, and she said to me, and I met her at university, at college, and we were in the same classes together, and I trusted her. I felt, and it wasn't until 19, otherwise I never said a word, because I knew I would be ridiculed and not believed and dismissed. But her, I knew I could trust her, and she said to me, after I was telling her what was going on, she said, Sabrina, you need to talk to somebody. And I said, why? My parents are the ones that are messed up. And she said, I know, but if you get therapy, you'll be helping them. And that stuck with me. So on campus, there was psychological services. I'm never going to forget it. And it was about 3 or 4 steps down. I would pass by it all the time. And all of the noise would happen in my head, like all of us, and I say to clients, potential clients, that's normal. Let it be okay. But don't let that stop you from getting therapy, from healing, getting on the road to healing. All of the noise of this is stupid. I'm embarrassed. What if somebody sees me? I'm fine. I don't need it. Money. And I couldn't give the excuse of money because it was free. It
Yeah.
was part of the tuition. So I went, and my friend didn't give up on me. She was so great. She would gently remind me and persist and say, did you go? Did you? So finally I went by myself. I went by myself, and I was scared. I was ashamed. But I went anyway. I made myself go, and I saw Dr. O'Connell. I'm never going to forget it. I think I went to her for a full semester, and what I found was, and in my head, I don't want to say stupidly, it was just an assumption that I had, like, oh, I'm going to be healed quickly.
Yeah.
I'm going to be okay in a session,
Yeah.
or, you know, and I quickly realized this is just the beginning. And what I noticed, not so much, I think, I noticed it at my college, and my friend was very proud of me for going. She was because I was suicidal. She knew I would take my own life. I was suicidal from 16 to 19. And that
Wow.
was the other reason why she kept checking up on me, because I was in deep depression. I was done. I was gonna take my own life. And she was scared for me, and she didn't call any police. She didn't call, she just kept on me very gently. And I'm eternally grateful to her for doing that. And after the semester was over, Dr. O'Connell said, Sabrina, you need to continue. I really hope you continue. And I don't know, I can't remember if she recommended some places, but because I was a student, I was able to go to the therapist for years, off and on, the same therapist. And she helped me tremendously to this day. Like, and I noticed when I was going to the second therapist that I still, off and on go to, I felt a little less heavy every single time I left her office. Not that I was healed, not that I felt lighter. The best way I can explain it, and this is how I tell people considering therapy or strongly advising therapy, the right therapist for you is the one that makes you feel a little less heavy every time you go. Bingo, that's your therapist. So that's how I felt. Every time I left the session, I felt like another boulder was removed from the very heavy, 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 heavy burden bestowed upon me from all of my parents' abuse. And that was very eye-opening for me, you know. And it's a work in progress. It's not like you come out and I'm healed. Everything is fine. Everything is great. Everything is wonderful. No, you know. And
Yeah.
and you practice it. You practice it every day. Yeah, that's what I
What were
learned.
some of
One of the major. Mm,
what were some
yeah.
of those tools, Sabrina, that they encourage you to use to help you to practice every day? What were some of those advices and nuggets and things like that that they offered you as this young woman in such trauma and pain to help her alleviate as she is living on a daily basis, as she's moving from A to B on every day, every day. What were some of those things that you brought in, or tools, if you will, that you brought in to assist you?
She would say to me, focus on the positive in your life and your, because I was deep in negative, deep. So, and it was more the type of person that I was, like the positive attributes of me, my accomplishments. But just going to therapy, the biggest practice, I never did that before.
Yeah,
And when my parents found out that I was in therapy, oh my gosh, it caused another war. My mother was telling me, don't go anymore. You don't need it. What are you doing? You don't, like, horrible. And I remember that appointment at my therapist, I was going to stop. And she got me to keep going. I can't remember what she said exactly, but like that you need this and that you're improving, and that why would you listen to your parents who got you here in the first place? Like they're the cause of so much pain and suffering in your life, something along those lines. And she wasn't yelling at me, obviously. She wasn't like, you need to come back. It was a very gentle reminder and repetition of keep coming back. This is good. You're improving. You're not suicidal anymore. You're, so I was healing, but still suffering, but I
yeah,
was healing more than suffering, I guess, or on the way to that. So just knowing, my point is that yes, I would write in journals positive things, and just knowing that I would go to my therapist every week was the biggest, I don't want to say ammunition, but tool
yeah,
for me, because I was still living in the house until 21. So the fighting kept going. And so I would go to my therapist and tell her what happened. And then I would, you know, um, use that, whatever she said, keep on the positive, Sabrina. It's not your fault. Your parents are very sick. Like open my eyes to, they're wrong, Sabrina. You're not the one who caused this. You're trying to get better. It's not your fault, because abusive parents will do that to you. They'll tell you it's your fault what I'm doing to you. You're the problem. You're the messed up one. So my therapist kept saying to me the exact opposite, which was true.
as I said, I always tell people, and I mention it to you, the truth will set you free. And it really is, it's a powerful wisdom, if you will. And I hope you guys heard what Sabrina talked about. She was writing, she was being a disciple. And I try to explain to people, Sabrina, that when you are pursuing your personal development, you must become a disciple. And that depends on many things. Sabrina talked about her discipleship when it came to counseling. It could be your discipleship when you're meditating, your yoga, whatever that is, your writing. Become a disciple. And when you become a disciple, the terminology simply means to discipline oneself. When you're in the process of disciplining yourself, you will grow and grow and grow. And you start learning about boundaries, about honoring self, honoring your words. I mean, it's an incredible journey. And I just want to usher you guys into it. Come on into it quickly, and begin to find who you are and learn. We're learning much from Sabrina. She's talking about her pain and how she has just begun to teach us, bring us into her space as to how she began to exit that particular arena. So here you are 19, you're still a mom and dad. Talk to us when you got your place. You're now 21 years old, you're out, you're free, but not freedom, if you will. You're free, but not experiencing your freedom, in the sense that You still have to hide your car. You still have to be very mindful of certain things. But how was Sabrina when she was in her space, her house, on her own?
Yeah, I felt free. I felt free in this. I just had a lot of work ahead of me. And at the time, I was with in computers. I had my degree, but I was heavy duty clubbing. So uh I I hated the whole corporate scene. You know, I
Yeah.
just really disliked it. I'm like, oh my gosh, nobody tells you this, you know, nobody tells you this, that this is how it is. Like, yes, you don't have exams anymore, you don't have homework, you don't have, but wow, you know, all the bureaucracy and the politics of corporate, you know. So my therapist helped me because she knew how much I loved to dance. She knew that. And she said, enough, Sabrina. You need to dance. Go for it. Try it out. You know, your parents stole enough from you. You live close to New York. Go for it. So, um, I started taking classes, dance
Mhm.
classes. Like normally at 21, you're almost retiring as a dancer because
Yeah.
you start at 5 years old, 4 years old, seven, eight. Not me, you know, not me. But I took teachers that believed in me and that really pushed me. And one in particular, Phil Black. He was so great. He was my dance dad, as so many people referred to him. And he was famous. He passed away in
Hmm.
2015, but he was well known Broadway, off Broadway, across the country, and even he was known as a master teacher in New York, and he didn't give up on me. And in fact, I was going out, I was in the club scene, as I said, I was crying a lot because I was realizing how much was stolen from me and how and I realized, you know, that my parents too, they had their lives stolen. I get it. But their one job, and as we say at Also Safe, your one job as a survivor, when you come out of it, your one job is to not continue the abuse. You're not to continue the violence, abuse, chaos, dysfunction. That's your one job. And they didn't. They continued it, but I'm the only one who got therapy. I'm the only one who took responsibility. So, and it was very painful, and I cried a lot. I had this one friend that I would club with, and we would cry and be very angry because she was going through the same thing. On the way to the club, we would cry and be angry and yelling, and not yelling and screaming at each other, but
Yeah.
venting on our pain. And then we would have a great time at the club. And then on the way back, laugh and like talk about the night, like the guys that we would meet and what would happen and laugh and be in such joy. Yeah, it was funny because on the way we would be very angry and upset, but on the way back, because we released and we were free and we I'm sorry, sometimes I go off track, but I started taking classes in New Jersey. I was born in New York. I'm proud to say I was born in Manhattan, but I grew up in New Jersey. But I'm in close proximity to New York, and I was able to take classes. I was full on immersed, submerged in the dance world, auditioning, training, 12 classes a week. I mean, my whole body changed. I mean, I've always been pretty thin, but to be dancer, strong, thin, like a powerhouse. I mean, ballet resculptures your whole body. There's nothing
Yeah.
like it. Nothing like it. And I was taking 12 classes a week with Phil Black and a few other teachers, ballet, jazz, hip hop, tap, Latin. I took it all. I took it all. Again, claiming the time that was stolen from me, you know. And
How did
but
that
I
make
was
you feel,
getting
Sabrina?
good.
How
Hmm.
did you make it feel? Because you were you were banned, if you will, by your parents for so long. This desire was sitting inside of you. You were caged in another way, in other words. And here you were, after your therapist told you to begin to exercise some freedom. And as you began to exercise that freedom in your dance, and you talked about all the different types of dance, how did you feel, Sabrina? Because you have your party scene, which are different types, but this is the one that has been residing inside your deepest part of you for a long time. What happened to you?
Well, at first, I suffered a lot. I was crying. Because there were so many people better than me
Mm-hmm.
that have been dancing since they were toddlers practically. I'm in the same class as all of these professionals in New York, and there were 3 studios that I hopped from, the 3 main studios to this day: Avenali, Steps, and Broadway Dance Center. And I suffered a lot in the beginning. You know, when you mess up in dance class as a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, 6, 7, 8, it's cute. But when you mess up as a 21-year-old, 22, 23, 24, you look like a fool. And I was always in the back at first for a number of years. And I was always like, yeah, I was in the back until Bill Black. And I would stay with him. I would get advice from him a lot. And I would help him because he had Parkinson's disease. And what a horrible thing to happen to a dancer, a master teacher, because Parkinson's disease affects your mobility, your
Ability,
movement,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
but so I would help him with his cane and his bag, but at the same time, he would advise me and tell me, Sabrina, don't give up. You need to work harder. Stop looking at other people. He would push me. You need to lead. Stop looking at other people. You need to work harder. Get the steps. You need to do that combination till you're blue in the face. I'm going to start crying. He was so great. He was so great because he didn't give up on me, and I got better. I got better, and I was able to go in the front where people were looking at me to lead. And then I was auditioning, and auditioning was very difficult. I mean, woo, Phil Black, he took no crap. Like he would say, you need to work hard in class so that way auditioning is easy. You know, and many teachers did not teach that way. You know,
Yeah.
he was old, not an old, he was old school very
Mm-hmm.
much. And he would say, he would push his students and say, and really, demand, not 100%. There was no marking in class. You know, you did everything full out. So, and auditioning was difficult. You know, it was difficult because again, I was in competition with people that were doing this for years
Yeah.
before me, So he pushed me. I started getting gigs, but it wasn't until I started writing my one-woman show that I felt gratification and just, how do I say, like, I would audition for the Brigadoon and so many shows, Phantom of the Opera, Cats, all of these shows, and they didn't give me satisfaction as a dancer per se. Not until I started writing my one-woman show where I did the monologue. I choreographed my own pieces, different styles, different disciplines, my own steps. I taught dance. I did it all.
Mm-hmm.
I did it all in a short period of time because all that time was stolen from me. So I had to catch up. And yeah, Phil Black, he was so great. And also Kat Wildish, she was my main ballet teacher at the time, Natalia Stavro. Yeah. And I just felt so to see your body transform and that you're getting the steps, entire combinations, entire pieces. It's very fulfilling and
Yeah.
like, wow. Uh, and you see patterns and you're picking up on the combinations faster. That was so satisfying and like, wow, it's happening because you feel like it's never going to happen. It's never
Yeah.
going to. I don't know if I could curse on your show, and I won't, but it's like, holy cow, it's happening. Like, and Phil Black told me, you have to work harder. Stop copying people. You have to do that until you're blue in the face. And like I say to people, like for the longest time, like he would not bring you to the front until you were worthy of
Yeah.
bringing you to the front. And then I started being in the front. What an honor, you know.
Yeah.
I felt like it's paying off. It's paying off. It's finally paying off.
Wow. What an
You know.
achievement, though, Sabrina, to be able to have that stored within you for so many years and then given the opportunity to pursue the work. And I hope you guys you heard what she said. When you're in the pursuit of your dream is different from every other, or your journey is different from every other individual. And we have a tendency to look at others and begin to become judgmental on ourselves, looking at them, using them as the benchmark about us, not recognizing that I am an original. I'm different from them. And that not to look at them, as Phil said to Sabrina, no, stop looking at them. You know, you put in your practice, you discipline yourself, you do, and you keep focused, and you will be you. And that translates into life in every aspect of our life. One of the biggest mistakes that we make is looking at someone else's life and trying to judge ourselves based on that. It'll cause all kinds of self destructive thought patterns to be developed by you because you are not them and they are not you. And so learn to focus on you guys and become you, become the expression that is you. So, Sabrina, here you are, you've done it, you got your show, your one woman show, you're writing, you're doing all of these things, you've achieved a major accomplishment that has been sitting around in you for a long time. And you're moving through life, as they say, moving on as you are being escorted out further. As you're heading further out in life, what was your life then? What was your journey like when you started achieving all of these things? Did you became, for lack of a better word, where you felt that you needed to move beyond where you were? And what did that look like as you began to make that step to move further out, as you feel yourself being pulled to continue your journey?
Yes, as I mentioned, as a dancer, I was able to do it all, taking classes, auditioning, getting gigs. I taught dance. I did my one-woman show. In fact, I performed my one-woman show with the other dance teachers and my students at the time, which was so great. And I did it for that teacher, Phil Black. He was in the actors' home in Englewood Cliffs, because he couldn't take care of himself anymore. But they have performances. So I did my show that I wrote, choreographed, and performed for him and the other residents there. So he got to see me perform. What an honor. That was so great. Before he passed away, I was able to do that, and I got his feedback. And he was so proud of me. That was so great. And when I wrote my one woman show, because I wanted it to be entertaining and educational, I did a lot of research for the show. Ken, I couldn't believe the statistics that I was finding with home violence,
Yeah.
because the show is called Home Sweet Home question mark, and play different women being abused. She goes to her good place, that's where the dancing comes in, but then she's pulled back into the terror of violence but the show ends really strong, really empowering. And I did a lot of research for the show, and I could not believe the statistics. I knew my pain, but I didn't know how common this was. So I said to myself, I need to make this into a business, a bona fide business with products and services that could really help people.
Mm-hmm.
So Oh So Safe was born out of this one woman show.
Yeah.
And I incorporate dance and acting, more dance, in everything that we do at Oh So Safe, because it's a good way to talk about a taboo subject and make it untaboo. When you bring the element of performance, especially dance, the performing arts, it's more palatable, it's more relatable, and the information sinks in, especially for students of all ages,
Yeah.
and adults for that matter. I LLC'd Oh So Safe. I trademarked it. I copywrote everything, the seminars, the workshops, the policy, the app, the everything. So so now I'm doing my business. I'm marketing it. I am tweak it. I improve upon it every single day. And I hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
far
you
as
did.
moving it along. Okay.
Yeah,
Mm.
because that's and for the listeners, I want you guys, you may be in a situation where you're dealing with abuse, trauma of any sort. We have this powerful being in the body form of Sabrina that is here to assist you. She has much knowledge and much wisdom, insight into that arena. Why? Because she was a part of that arena. She spent much of her life there and learned how to manage, how to survive, how to overcome all of those things that is a part of the journey. And I'm going to provide everything for you guys to get access to her. I mean, we haven't even touched some of the things that she does, but she helps her businesses by creating that safe space, whether it's home, office, wherever. And she has the tools and the knowledge how to guide you as an individual so that you can get your freedom and move through your pain and your in your life. So she talks about how she had put this business together due to her experience. How did the TED talk came about, Sabrina? How did that manifest? Because I've interviewed many folks that have been on the TED Talks, and I love how that piece comes together. Um, and it's not, it's just a fun topic, I guess, information, because a lot of people think it happens differently, but I love the stories. How did yours manifest, if you will?
Sure. My hairstylist at the time, actually,
I love it already.
she
I
was a
love the story. I love the story already.
yeah, she was a student at New Jersey City University, and she knew who I was. Well, she knew my company. I told her what I do and what I am about, and Oh So Safe, and she really liked it. And so she said, Sabrina, my university is hosting a TEDx talk. Why don't you apply? So I did. I applied, and it was a very simple questionnaire, really. And first, I got notice that I was an alternate. And then within a week, 10 days, I got another correspondence saying, no, we want you to be one of the 8 speakers, one of the 8 TEDx presenters. So my hairstylist, her name is Natasha. I thanked her up and down. I said, thank you so much, Natasha. This is so great. What an enormous opportunity you gave me. I'll never be able to thank you enough. So we went, I rehearsed myself like crazy. I said, because you're only given 18 minutes to say what you want to say. And the whole thing about TEDx TEDx is just a mini version of the TED Talk. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the same. It's just a smaller realm, if you will, but it's still the TED, which stands for technology, entertainment, and design, I believe. So I wrote it all out, and you can't promote yourself, like you can't sell anything. So it has to be strictly educational. I basically rehearsed myself. I wrote out everything. I rehearsed myself to different people to get their feedback. A good 10 people, I said it, and I wanted their feedback, including my therapist, actually, and a business advisor. And they said, well, I think it's really good, but maybe add this, subtract that. And so it was April that we shot it, April of 2018, I believe. And we go to New Jersey City University, and I met the other speakers, the other presenters, and my hairstylist is in the audience, and she thought I did fantastic. And with the TEDx logo and the lighting and the whole, it was so great. And I was nervous.
Yeah.
But I'm a performer.
Yeah.
So I pulled everything out of my toolbox, the performing toolbox. I meditated, I breathed, I calmed myself, and I rehearsed the hell out of myself. Because you're going to be nervous. There's no getting away from that, but you
Yeah.
have to perform through that. You have to deliver.
Yeah.
So I did it. I was very well prepared, and I wish they captured it right before they cut. I heard some man in the audience, "Bravo!" It was so great, it was so great. But they had to cut that because that would have been
Yeah.
playing favoritism. And I'm so eternally grateful to Natasha and to the TEDx crew and everybody. They were so professional, and it was such a nod, like a stamp of approval. It
Yeah.
was so great, and so I have it in my signature and everything.
Yeah, that is awesome. This has been for me a really good interview, if you will, conversation. I don't even like the word interview. I like the word conversation more than that interview. Because here is this young girl that has gone through so much. And one of the reasons why this particular podcast is alive is because, as I stated before, I've had friends, and you had mentioned that you had suicidal tendencies in 19 and 17 through 19 and so forth. And I've lost some friends to that. And one of the things on my heart is to have conversations like this, to let them know that, and I had interviewed this lady that said something very powerful that changed my mindset on certain things. She said, when part of our identity dies, we think that that's us. And because that identity is dying, we want to kill ourselves. The identity form, in my situation, I was a dad and I'd lost my job. My company had shut down a whole department, and I would panic. And I'm like, I was so in love with that job. My identity was in that. Went into a little spiral, had to come out of it and all this kind of stuff. But the thoughts kept, I felt like a failure, and thoughts were coming into my life. And I remember that part of me, that identity, was dying. It was not, had nothing to do with me. And I had to learn to recognize the death of an identity. But yet I have the ability to create others. And that's what we did. And so I have a woman, man, that is in front of me that is powerful as ever. That and she didn't go in deeper in her story, but I could sense the darkness that she was in. And I want to afford her to you guys. I want you to have access to her. For those that are kids, that have children that are suffering, you may know someone with kids. I'm going to provide all of her links for you guys to get them, because we know how that is within that space. As Sabrina said, the trauma stays within that household, within those four walls. And that's the sin, that it stays within those four walls. It needs to come out. and learn how to manage that. But I have someone, guys, I'm going to provide all of her stuff. You need to get to her as quickly as you can, because I know how damaging it is. And for children, we have some 18-year-olds that are listening. I look at the data myself, Sabrina, and to you young ones that I'm talking to as well. If you're in a situation like that, here is someone. There's help. Do not believe that you're alone. You are not alone. There is others that you can bring into your tribe that will help you. Sabrina is an excellent individual to bring in to be a part of your tribe for what she does and how she can assist you. Sabrina, I want to thank you, man. This has been really good, really good, really good conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for tuning in to Threads of Enlightenment with Ken Primus. Hopefully, you're now feeling more empowered to overcome the challenges in your life, whatever they may be. Share that inspiration with others by telling them about this podcast, rating it, and of course, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. For more connection, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Threads of Enlightenment. Until next time, stay enlightened.